My name is Cole Marston. I'm 38, based in Palo Alto. Managing partner at Arcline Ventures, a seed stage fund that only bets on products, never promises. She didn't know I'd be there. Not yet. She walked onto the stage like she belonged to it, heels measured, smile rehearsed, clicker in hand. The projection screen lit up behind her. Helixa, AI-driven brand equity forecasting. I'd seen that deck already. Twice. Once as an anonymous submission to our portfolio pipeline. Once again last night when I saw the founder name and realized it was her. Emma Bennett, 35. CEO, according to the slide. She used to be Emma Reeves, back when she said I was just potential with no trajectory. That was 11 years ago. I remember because it was the night after my final loan deferment was denied. I'd made chicken marsala in a tiny Queens apartment we shared, fold-out table, no air conditioning. She'd waited until we finished eating to say it. You're smart, Cole. You'll make it someday. But I can't be the one waiting while you figure it out. She said it like she was offering career advice, not breaking off a 4-year relationship. I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't say a word. I just cleared the dishes, took the trash out, and never came back. 11 years later, I watched her step into my event, pitch to my fund, and flash that same polite smile to the same kind of man she once told me I'd never be. She hadn't recognized me yet. The panel had 6 of us, 3 from Arcline, 2 syndicates, 1 from media. I didn't sit center. I didn't speak. Not yet. I just listened. Helixa, she began, is transforming how brands anticipate customer resonance before campaign dollars are spent. Her tone was smooth, her delivery sharp. But her hands gave her away. Not shaking, exactly, but clenched just tight enough around the clicker that the plastic creaked between slides. She was nervous. She didn't know why. Not yet. The last time she saw me, I was bartending at an East Side rooftop, stealing Wi-Fi between shifts to code a prototype I couldn't afford to patent. Now I was holding the decision on a $1.5 million convertible note she was betting her company's Series A on. This wasn't personal, not yet, but it would become precise. She advanced to her 3rd slide, unit economics. Inflated projections, weak CAC assumptions, too much burn for a product still pre-revenue. It was a pitch made for buzzwords and belief. I'd seen better ideas from founders in cafes with broken laptops and unpaid interns. But Helixa had a strong narrative. Emma always knew how to tell a good story. In our final year together, she used to sit across from me and say things like, "Every great couple has a 5-year plan. What's ours?" I'd answer honestly, app, demo, pitch, angel round. She'd nod, then gently shift the conversation to marriage timelines, moving to the suburbs, how much security meant stability. To her, those words were currency. To me, they were math I couldn't make work yet. She called that immature. That night she left, she said, "I just can't build my future around a maybe." Now she stood on stage, asking 6 men in blazers to do exactly that. I didn't smile, didn't lean forward, just let the silence between us grow teeth. When she hit the final slide, ask, cap, milestone, her voice cracked for half a second. Barely. But I caught it. She opened for questions. A pause, then I spoke. "Can you clarify your timeline to revenue?" She turned toward me and finally saw. There it was. Recognition. 1 blink, then 2. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She recovered, but not fully. Yes, she said, adjusting her tone. "We're targeting Q4 for monetization through pilot programs with DTC brands, scaling in Q1. I nodded, said nothing more. She moved to the next question, but the rhythm was gone. I watched, measured, waited. Because this wasn't the moment. Not yet. This was just the pitch. But it would end with my answer. And it would end with her words. The same one she gave me that night in Queens, folded between compassion and dismissal, clinical and final. I just don't see the potential. This time I'd say them. Emma always liked men with momentum. Not necessarily money, though she never minded that, but trajectory. People who looked good on paper, whose LinkedIn headlines spoke louder than their actual lives. I wasn't that. Not in 2010, not even close. Back then, I was 3 years out of a computer science degree I couldn't afford to finish. I'd taught myself Python from library books and Stack Overflow threads, patched together contracts from Craigslist, and worked nights at a bar to pay rent on a 4th-floor walk-up in Astoria with radiator heat and windows that didn't close right. Emma, on the other hand, had a degree in marketing, a job at a mid-sized PR agency, and a wardrobe that said manager, even when her paycheck didn't. She liked to say we balanced each other, that my raw ambition and her structured thinking made us a team. But that was only when the future was abstract, when the plan was theoretical. I learned something during that time. People like the idea of building with you. They like the version of you they can mold and manage, until they have to wait, until you stall, until the plan looks like a burden instead of a bet. Emma never said it out loud, but I knew. She liked the version of me that made her look patient, noble even, the supportive girlfriend of a brilliant underdog. That story worked for a while, until the VC interviews dried up, until the second product failed launch, until the angel who said he was committed ghosted us 2 weeks before our demo day. I remember the night Emma brought home a bottle of Pinot and 2 sets of resumes from marketing agencies in San Francisco. She said she was testing the waters. We weren't married. We didn't share finances. But we shared a lease, a bed, a life and everything but paperwork. That's why she could walk away clean. No forwarding address, no legal tangle. Just a folded note on the kitchen counter. You'll be fine. Someday. I need more than potential. I need progress. No signature. Just that final sentence, carefully typed, as if this were a press release, not the end of 4 years. I didn't chase her, didn't reply, didn't even delete the note. I just folded it once more and stuck it in the back of my desk drawer. A month later, the bar laid me off. 2 months later, I got into an accelerator program in Atlanta with a prototype that nobody wanted, until they did. Year 1, I broke even. Year 2, I sold the first company for $3.2 million. Year 4, I started Arcline Ventures. We don't chase unicorns. We back overlooked operators, the same kind of founder I used to be. The ones with no trust fund, no Harvard hoodie, and no connections. Just a product and the chip on their shoulder. That's what Emma didn't understand. She thought I needed her to believe in me. I didn't. I just needed time. Now I had time, and control, and silence. When I saw her name in the pitch application for the pre-seed event, I didn't delete it. I flagged it. Emma didn't remember that Arcline was my firm, not when she applied. Probably assumed I was still somewhere behind the scenes, still invisible, still potential. She had a co-founder, a weak one. Their founding story was vague. Their IP hadn't been fully registered. But the pitch video was slick. Her voice was still persuasive. I approved her slot. I wanted to hear her say it. Out loud, on stage. 'Cause there's a difference between ambition and arrogance. One builds quietly, the other forgets who it stepped on. Emma used to tell me I needed to think more like a CEO, that I was too deep in the product, too slow with the pitch, that VCs invest in stories, not syntax. She was right, she just didn't realize I was listening. That week before the event, I reviewed her financials. Soft commitments from early angel funds. A vague LOI from a DTC platform I knew personally hadn't even read the deck. Half-truths dressed up like milestones. It wasn't fraud, but it wasn't clean either. Still, I let her through. Not because I was angry, not because I wanted payback, but because I wanted to hear her sell the version of herself she used to demand from me. The night before the pitch, I walked past the empty stage. Rows of chairs, sponsor banners, white lights humming above polished floors. I stood there a long time, 11 years, 3 companies, 1 fund, no applause, no vindication, just focus. I didn't need revenge, I just needed a reason to close the loop. She gave me one when she submitted that deck. It was supposed to be a celebration. We just passed the 3rd month mark of trying to land funding for the beta of my second prototype, a peer-to-peer feedback tool for remote teams. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. I had 2 working contracts with small startups in Brooklyn and a few interest emails from devs who liked the UX. Nothing locked in, but promising. Emma made a reservation at a quiet Italian place in Midtown. Cloth napkins, low lights, a bottle of red already breathing when we arrived. She wore the gray blazer I liked, the one she used to wear when she gave pitches at her old agency job, the one that said she was taking something seriously. I didn't realize it wasn't the product she was evaluating. She let me talk about the product roadmap through appetizers, smiled through the traction numbers I'd memorized, nodded when I mentioned I was close to convincing a back-end engineer to come on board for equity instead of salary. She didn't say much. But Emma had always been a quiet listener. That wasn't unusual. It only felt different because of the silences between bites. I should have known. I should have known when she only drank half her wine, when she didn't ask for dessert, when she looked at me and her expression didn't match the words. "I want to talk about us," she said. I remember the exact phrase, not, "I need to talk," not, "We need to talk," just, "I want to," calculated, prepared, no panic, no mess. I set my fork down, waited. Emma didn't cry, didn't get dramatic. She delivered her message with the same calm tone she used to use in client meetings. "You're brilliant, Cole. Honestly, and I still care about you. But I can't build my life around a maybe." Her voice didn't waver. It didn't even drop. She said it like she was offering constructive feedback. I've been thinking about this a lot. I've applied to a few jobs in California. One's already made an offer. I leave next week. She pulled a manila envelope from her bag and slid it across the table. It wasn't thick. Inside were her half of the lease termination form, the keys to the apartment, and a typed list of accounts with her name on them. It was pre-packed closure. No space for negotiation, no loose ends, no apology. I remember asking one question. Did I do something wrong? She hesitated for half a second. That was the only crack. "No," she said. "You just haven't done enough, and I don't know if you ever will." That was her version of kindness. I nodded, took the envelope, paid the check. We left together but didn't touch. She didn't say goodbye outside the restaurant. Just turned and walked down 7th Avenue like she had somewhere more important to be. I stood there for a long time, watched her disappear into the city, then walked 4 blocks in the other direction before I let myself feel anything. Back at the apartment, I put the envelope on the desk, sat down, and stared at it. Then I folded it once and put it in the drawer with the printed investor rejections. That was the night I stopped trying to convince anyone of my potential. I started building like I was already on borrowed time. 3 weeks later, I left New York, drove a rented van down to Raleigh, North Carolina. A mentor from a hackathon had offered me free space in the back of a co-working lab in exchange for helping him rebuild his dev stack. That's where I slept. That's where I coded. That's where the first version of Sable, a feedback API for remote teams, was born. I never talked about Emma again, not even when Sable got acquired, not even when I closed the first fund for Arcline. But I never deleted her number either, not out of hope, out of documentation. Because someday, if that number ever showed up again, I wanted to remember exactly who she'd been, not the person she pretended to be at the beginning, not the voice that said, "someday," like it was a threat. The person who slid an envelope across a dinner table and walked away. Now she was 3 feet from the panel, watching my pen hover over her score sheet. I hadn't written a number yet. She was still waiting. So was I. I didn't go to business school, didn't intern at McKinsey, didn't pitch in Patagonia fleece to rooms full of angel investors with soft hands and pre-signed safe notes. But I learned. I learned in silence, in borrowed offices with bad Wi-Fi and mismatched chairs. From failure, from other people's exits, from NDAs I didn't sign and terms I wasn't supposed to see. I read funding decks like crime scenes, every number a motive, every omission a red flag. And over time, I stopped chasing vision and started recognizing leverage. The first time I sat across from a real investor, someone with actual pull, not just clout, I didn't talk about disruption. I didn't mention market share. I said, if I walk away, 3 competitors lose a year of lead time. He wrote the check on the spot. That was the day I understood the game wasn't about making people like you. It was about making them need you. When Arcline Ventures launched, I funded founders no one else returned emails to. Quiet operators, engineers with bad pitch decks and great retention curves. People who didn't polish their shoes but could optimize their churn rate blindfolded. It worked. The partners I brought in weren't influencers. They were killers. People with receipts, not personas. We didn't host dinners. We ran diagnostics. Our due diligence was forensic. That's the kind of structure Emma never liked. She'd once told me I was too slow to scale, that I overthought product strategy, that I didn't know how to sell the dream. I remember her exact words. You're building the engine when the investor just wants to see the car. She was right, and that's why I knew she was going to fail. Because Emma was still selling cars she hadn't road tested, still repackaging instinct as insight. Her startup's metrics were decoration, vanity CAC, inflated TAM, user pipeline padded with affiliate referrals that wouldn't convert beyond month 1. It wasn't malicious, just cosmetic. But to me, that was worse. Cosmetic is what gets founders funded too soon, what gets teams hired too fast, what buries companies under the weight of their own press. By the time Emma walked on stage at the pre-seed event, I'd already reviewed her cap table. It was a mess. Convertible notes with ambiguous triggers, no clear path to liquidation. One early investor with a 2x MFN clause she hadn't disclosed. She didn't know that clause would nuke her Series A. But I did. I'd seen it happen before. And still, I let her pitch. Because some lessons can't be taught. They have to be experienced. And Emma had never learned to read silence. That was the difference between us. She mistook my quiet for hesitation, my delay for indecision. She didn't understand that I was already writing her outcome in my head while she was still selling the intro. During the break after her session, she approached the judge's table. "Cole?" Her voice was soft, calculated. Not fake, but not real either. I looked up, held her eyes for 2 seconds longer than polite. "Emma, I didn't realize, I saw the name on the panel list, but I waited. But I wasn't sure it was you. It's been 11 years, I said, give or take." She smiled, like people do when they've practiced it. "You look good," she added. "I followed your work. Arklines had a great run." I nodded once, that was all. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I meant what I said back then. I really did believe in you. You picked someone with more traction," I finished for her. She didn't deny it. It wasn't personal. I let that hang in the air, let it settle in her mouth like dust she couldn't swallow. "You know what's interesting?" I said, voice flat. She leaned in slightly. "I built what I did because I stopped waiting for people like you to believe in people like me." Emma flinched, not visibly, but internally. You can feel it when someone remembers they don't control the conversation anymore. "I hope you get the funding you're looking for," I added. "If not here, then somewhere." I didn't smile. I didn't offer a handshake. I just turned back to the table and picked up my pen. She stood there for another beat, then walked away. That's when I wrote the number on her scorecard. Neutral? Safe. Low enough to disqualify, high enough to avoid suspicion. It wasn't revenge. It was architecture. The final round was closed to the public. No live stream, no photographers, no promotional panels, just founders, funders, and data. Emma was scheduled second. 10-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A. One shot. I sat in the second seat from the left. Not the center. That was reserved for Natalie, our operations partner, but close enough to control the tone of the room. I had a copy of Helixa's deck in front of me, annotated. Not with questions, with patterns. Each time I read through her forecasted churn rate, I circled the same number in red. 22%. It was wrong. That figure had been lifted from a 2019 benchmark report. DTC churn has spiked since then. She either didn't know or didn't care. Both were disqualifying. But I said nothing. She walked in 2 minutes early. Same blazer, same confidence. But this time her eyes swept the room like she was looking for landmines, not allies. We made brief eye contact, no smile, no nod. Just confirmation. I was real, present, watching. Emma cleared her throat, stepped into the pitch. "Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Emma Bennett, and I'm the founder and CEO of Helixa." Her voice didn't shake, but it didn't land either. The Polish was still there, but something underneath was fragmented, like a speaker running on 80% signal strength. She went through the motions: market need, solution overview, preliminary traction. Her tone flattened on slide 4. That was the one where she claimed 37% month-over-month growth. She didn't cite a data source. Natalie glanced at me. I said nothing. Emma kept going. Slide 6, financial model. That's when her hand tightened around the clicker again, not visibly. But the light changed slightly. Her thumb blocked the sensor. She was sweating now, just a bit, around the collar. Nothing dramatic. But I'd been in enough boardrooms to know, once you lose the room, you don't get it back by talking faster. She was rushing now, skipped an entire slide on customer segmentation. Didn't explain the GTM strategy. Then, She reached the final slide. Helixa, built for brands that listen. Minimalist, clean, aspirational. But the room was quiet. Natalie cleared her throat. Thank you, Emma. Let's open to questions. One investor asked about her lead acquisition cost. She deflected, said they were still validating those numbers. Another asked about technical debt. She blamed an early version mismatch with a third-party vendor. Then I spoke. What's your path to sustainability? Emma turned her head slowly. Excuse me. Post-raise. Once the funding runway ends, how do you survive if retention dips below 20%? She blinked. Well, we're not anticipating that. You don't have retention, I said. You have click-through. That's not the same. Her face froze for a half-second, then recovered. We believe retention will increase as your pre-revenue, I said, still calm. There is no retention, only user behavior forecasts, and those depend on the assumptions on slide 6. No one interrupted. I waited. Emma's mouth opened slightly. She nodded. We're aware of the risks, she said, and we're building contingencies. Silence again. I leaned back. Let the others ask their questions. Emma didn't stumble. She held on, but the room had turned. You could feel it. A slow exhale from the panelists who'd stopped writing and started watching. When the questions ended, she thanked the room. Her voice was steady again. But when she turned to leave, she didn't look at me. That was the tell. Out in the hallway, I saw her standing near the exit. Alone, hands clasped. Phone out, not texting, just holding it. Like it might anchor her. I walked past her without stopping. Didn't nod, didn't break stride. Because this wasn't the moment for a scene. This wasn't a movie. It was a ledger. And hers was closing. 2 hours later, the judges met in the private lounge to score the final rankings. Natalie ran the numbers. 3 teams moved to the top. Emma's didn't. Helixa missed the cut, she said, scanning the list. I nodded, didn't comment. She looked at me. You sure? Yes, she paused. You knew her, didn't you? Once. Natalie didn't press. She knew better than to confuse personal history with professional outcome. That's why I hired her. We finished scoring, sent the results to the event team. And that was that. No one clapped, no one cried. Just another founder who didn't make it. I walked back to my hotel, poured a drink, and pulled up her pitch video on the portal. Watched it once. Then deleted the file. The follow-up emails went out the next morning. Standard format. Polite, formulaic. Final. Thank you for presenting at the Pre-Seed West Summit. After careful consideration, we've decided not to move forward at this time. We appreciate your passion and encourage you to keep us updated on future milestones. No one ever replies. Most don't expect to get in. The smart ones already know when a room goes cold. But Emma replied, not with outrage, not with gratitude, with a question. Was it personal? I read it twice. Closed the laptop, didn't answer right away. That evening, I went to the rooftop of my building, same place I'd taken phone calls during my first raise. Same railing I'd leaned on while telling my third CTO that no, I wasn't interested in acquisition yet, not until the product was stable. I let the question sit. Was it personal? Number. But it was precise, the same way she had been the night she left. When she made sure the lease was clean, the message clear, the door shut. Now it was my turn to speak in her language. I opened a blank email, typed 2 lines. I appreciate the update, I just don't see the potential. Then I hit send. No greeting, no sign-off, no explanation. The same words she'd used on me in 2012. At a 2-seat table in a restaurant I couldn't afford, after a meal I'd overcooked just trying to impress her. I closed the laptop again, sat there for a while, let the wind press against my jacket like a reminder. When I returned inside, there was a reply waiting. That was a long time ago. People change. So do valuations. I didn't write back, because there was nothing else to say. I hadn't erased her. I hadn't humiliated her. I'd done exactly what she once did. Listened to the pitch, weighed the numbers, made a decision. The difference was, I didn't lie about why. The next day, a junior analyst from a competing fund reached out. Helixa came across our desk. Know anything? I could have ruined her with a sentence. One line about the data inconsistencies, the padded pipeline, the questionable cap table. But I didn't. I just replied, they're not a fit for us. Let the rest play out naturally. 3 weeks later, I heard she tried to reopen her round, cut the valuation, pivoted the product, still no lead. One of the LPs on our fund sent me a screenshot. Is this the one you passed on? I replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Nothing more. Not because I wanted anyone to know, but because I wanted the record to be clean. This wasn't about revenge. It was about discipline. Emma had once reduced me to a financial line item, said I didn't make sense on paper, that I'd be fine someday. But not with her. She wasn't wrong. I just learned how to use the same math she used, better. When founders pitch us now, I listen differently. Not for what they're saying, but for what they're hiding. Emma used to say that storytelling was more important than metrics. Now I build entire investment theses off silence, because no matter how slick the deck, the numbers always tell the truth. I never told anyone the full story. Not Natalie. Not my co-founders. Not even our LPs when they asked why I passed on Helixa. Because the truth didn't matter to anyone but me, and it wasn't useful anymore. What mattered was the pattern, the way things finish exactly how they start. Emma had built her pitch the same way she'd built our relationship. Shiny, promising, shallow under pressure. I didn't need to punish her for it. Life already had the mechanism. She'd spent over a decade investing in Polish. I'd spent it building infrastructure. The outcome was inevitable. The last I heard, Helixa folded. Website down. LinkedIn quiet. An ex-employee posted a vague message about looking forward to new opportunities. Emma's name never came up in the industry chatter again. But I still kept the email, the one with her question. Was it personal? It wasn't. But it was precise. That's the difference between vengeance and consequence. Vengeance is messy, emotional, immediate. Consequence is quiet, structured, timed, the kind you don't see until the walls close in. After the event, I had dinner with Natalie. She'd picked a small Korean place off El Camino. Casual, loud enough that no one eavesdropped. We split the check, like always. You were hard on that founder, she said over tea. Which one? I asked. The one with the AI brand thing, Helixa. I shrugged. She wasn't ready. Natalie didn't push, but she didn't look away either. Some people take longer to figure things out, she said. Some don't figure them out at all, I replied. She nodded once, like someone adding a line to a private record. That was the end of it. The following quarter, we closed a $14 million round for Arcline 2. 5 new companies, all quiet killers. No press releases, no founder photos, just performance. That's how I liked it. 6 months later, a LinkedIn request showed up. Emma, new city, new title. Strategic advisor, brand partnerships. I didn't accept, didn't decline, just left it pending. because I wanted her to feel the space between no and yes, to know that silence was now mine to control. Some nights I still think about that envelope she left on the kitchen table. Folded, precise, prepared. It wasn't cruelty, it was structure. Her structure. And I admired it, even then. I've used that structure ever since. There's a particular kind of clarity that comes from being discarded, a blueprint that only reveals itself when you stop performing value and start building it. Emma taught me that. Not with love, with exit. That's not bitterness. That's balance.